All right. What's going on, everybody? Had a bit of a break last week. I only ran one stream. It was actually this waiver show last Tuesday before a bit of a hiatus, but am back, ready to rock and roll for Thanksgiving week. And just a couple of weeks left in the fantasy regular season in all likelihood, depending on your league's makeup and schedule. Chances are you have 2 weeks left in the regular season, and your fantasy playoffs start week 15. If your fantasy playoff schedule involves week 14, that includes bye weeks. That needs to be adjusted yesterday, last year, whatever have you. Hopefully, week 14, in addition to obviously this week 13 and 14 are regular season weeks for you. 2 weeks left in the regular season. So 2 more weeks to get things right. If there is still an opportunity for you to make the playoffs, this is it. We're in do or die territory, and I'm here to hopefully help you get there. Welcome to another episode. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Hopefully everybody got wins this past week, and hopefully everybody's got something fun to look forward to this week. Whether you're celebrating Thanksgiving, you're celebrating the holiday, or maybe it's not. Maybe you're not. But whatever your plans are, your week is. Hopefully it's hopefully it's a fun one. And obviously we got a lot of football on Thursday. 3 games as always on Thanksgiving. So we'll entertain start-sit questions today. Especially ones that involve the Thanksgiving games. And I'm back to my normal Saturday, Sunday slate of start-sit help this weekend, just as an FYI. Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. That'll be a members-only stream as for the rest of the season. The Sunday morning streams are members only, but the Saturday one is open to everybody. Will be available for that after a 1 week hiatus. But it's good to be back, and looking forward to help everybody solidify their playoff situation. Also, in all likelihood, your league's trade deadline has passed at this point. If it is still active, let me know. If trades are still eligible in your league, of course, that means that we can go over those questions. But in all likelihood, in all redraft formats, this is typically the week 12 is typically the final week of trades. So you may not have that option available to you anymore to potentially make any tweaks to your roster. We're just looking at waiver wire options at this point. The options are thin. They are starting to thin out, although there are some running back options this week that are absolutely worth looking at. The ever critical running back position, the ever fluid running back position, depending on availability of different players and, of course, injuries. There were several week 12 opening the door for other options and other opportunities for some backs. So we'll get into that. And then, of course, as always, your questions. I guess before I get started, appreciate it, Bobby. Thanks for joining on as a member. Much appreciated. Much appreciated the support of the channel. You will get priority responses to questions and comments moving forward. That is a perk of being a member. If you're interested in becoming a member, if you are enjoying the stream, not just this stream, but the channel in general, conversation, dialogue, all that good stuff, there are details about becoming a member in the first link in the description of this stream and all videos and streams on the channel. But shout out, Bobby. Appreciate the support. We'll get to your questions here shortly. I also see Greg. What's going on, Greg? Members will get member shout outs. They'll get username shout outs. Again, another perk of being a member of the channel. You know that I am addressing you specifically. And they will get questions responded to in priority order. Supers will also get priority responses. You do not have to send a super, but if you are feeling so inclined, that will get a priority, faster response to any questions that you may have. And then I will get to everybody else. I'm going to quickly go over just like the top potential waiver wire options that are available in your league. Again, most of them are likely running backs that are potential option for you, and then I will get to questions. So let's go ahead and just quickly kick things off. I'm just going to lump them all together because at this point, in all likelihood, they are available. Maybe Amir Abdullah isn't available. I'll start with him. It's possible that he was a pickup late this past week with Alexander Madison and Zamir White both missing the game for the Raiders, and Amir Abdullah took advantage of his opportunities. I think he caught 5 passes. He scored a touchdown. He had double-digit fantasy points in all scoring formats. So pretty damn good plug and play. And it's probably not a stretch at this point to call him the best option that the Raiders have out of the backfield, just because Alexander Madison and Zamir White are not good and haven't been good all year. Alexander Madison has had his moments here and there this year, but he's only averaging like 3.2, 3.3 yards per carry. Now he's hurt. Zamir White has been bad all season long. There's no reason to believe Amir Abdullah can't just be like the main guy for the Raiders moving forward. It's a difficult offense to trust. Aiden O'Connell will presumably be the starting quarterback for the Raiders for the rest of the season. So in deep, deep super flex leagues, you could pick him up. Gardner Minshew will miss the rest of the season due to injury. This is not a great Raiders offense, but Amir Abdullah figures to get opportunities in that backfield the rest of the way, given how bad Zamir White and Alexander Madison have been. The other options are, Gus Edwards, Jeremy McNichols, and again, this is all injury related. Gus Edwards is looking to see an expanded opportunity because J.K. Dobbins exited Monday Night Football last night with a knee injury. I don't believe we've gotten any type of update on him yet as of last night, which is a bit of a long way to go without any type of injury update. Typically at this point, you get something from the team. Let me see if there's anything here on J.K. Dobbins. No, nothing. Still nothing. So we can only speculate what type of absence, if any, we're looking at with Dobbins. If anything comes out for the rest of the evening, waivers likely clear tonight in your league. It's possible they clear on Thursday. So in that instance, you have an extra 24 hours to see what comes of the J.K. Dobbins injury and how much time it's possible that he misses. It could be 1 week. Maybe it's none. We don't know right now. But Gus Edwards is squarely on the radar because while we're hoping for the best with J.K. Dobbins, he does have an injury history. So the fact that we've not heard anything yet, it's difficult to say if that's good or bad news. But Dobbins obviously has missed significant time over the course of multiple seasons over his career. So it's fair to put Gus Edwards at or near the top of waiver wire priorities for this week. Tank Bigsby, Jeremy McNichols, other options for you. McNichols, it's looking like, Washington could be without Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. Eckler was hit with a concussion this past week. Robinson got twisted around in the game against the Cowboys, returned, struggled, and was ultimately forced to exit from the game a second time. Opened the door for McNichols to put up some decent production, including a touchdown. So in this offense, although they have hit a little bit of a wall here, Washington has over the past couple of games, past month of the season or so, opportunity is opportunity, and it has come knocking for Jeremy McNichols. So he's probably third or fourth as far as the waiver wire priority goes. Maybe he jumps up to second if we get any good news about J.K. Dobbins between now and the end of the night. And then, of course, with Bigsby, possibly dropped during the Jaguars bye week, during Bye-Mageddon. It was a severe, a lot of guys off for the Week 12 bye week this past week. So Bigsby was possibly, the odd man out on your bench to make room for a player who was available. He's worth picking back up. Travis Etienne has been nothing short of awful since pretty much week 4 of this season. He hasn't been spectacular at all, but at least weeks 1 to 3, he was serviceable. He has been anything but that since then. Bigsby is worth a grab if he is still available. At wide receiver, there's not a lot there. Again, MVS, Demario Douglas continues to be added and dropped on a week-to-week basis. Dontavian Wicks potentially emerges with Romeo Doubs having missed having had to exit the game early with a concussion. It's possible, or it's likely Christian Watson was already on rosters. So he's obviously on the wire or the radar as well if Doubs has to miss a game or two. That's about it for wide receivers. At tight end, my guy Jatavian Sanders suffered a bad-looking injury where he landed on his head. I don't know that we can what if anything we can necessarily expect from Jatavian, not just this week, but for the rest of the season on a tanking Panthers team. going nowhere fast. I was bullish and optimistic about Sanders' opportunity, and he was starting to turn it. He was starting to come on for sure, and the early returns from the game against the Chiefs was looking good. And then, of course, he lands on his head, suffers a bad-looking injury, apparently avoided a serious injury, thankfully. We'll see what comes of his availability in the coming weeks. But he's, for now, off the radar, unfortunately. Shoemaker, Luke Shoemaker for the Dallas Cowboys. Jake Ferguson might miss Thanksgiving on the short week, so Shoemaker could end up playing and come through if you are desperate at tight end. Although with so many teams returning from bye this week, it's possible that your tight end situation is in good enough shape where you don't have to take such a deep shot on somebody like him or like a Theo Johnson, even though Theo Johnson is starting to emerge, at least from an opportunity perspective, which is all you can ask for at the tight end position. So not a lot going on for me outside of the top 4 or 5 names on the wire this week, and they're all running backs. So again, you can never have too much running back depth, especially with the fantasy playoffs just 2 weeks away. So if any of Abdullah, Gus Edwards, Tank Bigsby, Jeremy McNichols, if any of these guys are available, they are worth, at this point, you may not have a lot of FOB left, or maybe you have a late waiver claim if you've been active on the waiver wire and you don't utilize FOB, you just utilize priority order. Spend what you feel is necessary. If you have a $100 FOB budget at the start of the year and you're down to $15, might as well throw 10 of those on some running back depth with the fantasy playoffs fast approaching, especially if you haven't quite clinched a berth yet and could use the running back depth, which is about 90% of teams any given week. I think that should pretty much do it for just a general waiver overview. So hopefully that maybe answered a question or two. If it didn't, we'll certainly get into this now. Just as a reminder, members will get priority responses to questions and comments if you send a super. You don't have to, but if you are feeling so inclined or generous enough, that will also be a line jumper to get your question answered faster. And then I will get to everybody else. So I just ask for some patience as I work through members and supers first, regardless of whether you're a member, send a super, or don't. If you're just enjoying the conversation in general, the dialogue, the engagement, all that good stuff, I only ask that you like the stream. That helps me out for algorithm purposes. Appreciate that in advance. Let's get into it. I see Bobby. I see Greg. I see He Hate Me. What's going on, He Hate Me? I see Derek. I see and Nemo just jumped in. What's going on, Nemo? One of my longest standing members. Appreciate it. Appreciate the support very much, man. You already know. And welcome in. And I see Arturo. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for popping in. I'll start with Bobby because that's what I see first. Let's get it going. Managed to win. Nicely done. So we need to sort out any potential options here for your roster. Jordan Mason at this point can be dropped. This is a 49ers offense that is in some serious trouble. As long as they're down, anytime a team is down multiple starting guys on the offense, which was Brock Purdy and Trent Williams for the 49ers, that's a bad sign, generally speaking, for the opportunity of everybody else, and that came to fruition. Christian McCaffrey flopped. Deebo Samuel flopped. It was not a good day for the 49ers offense. Jordan Mason, even though McCaffrey has been pretty pedestrian in his return, Mason has taken a deep, deep back seat to Christian McCaffrey. He can be dropped. For any of the guys that I just mentioned, Amir Abdullah, Gus Edwards, Jeremy McNichols, Tank Bigsby, all 4 of those guys as of right now are, at least for week 13, are more valuable than Jordan Mason. It was a good run. It was a fun run. I absolutely advocated for holding him as long as McCaffrey was out. I didn't advocate for trading him. It probably would have made sense a month ago or so to try to trade him for whatever you could get. But at that point, everybody knew McCaffrey was coming back. It was a situation where I was totally fine riding the wave as a waiver wire pickup at the beginning of the year and then just dumping and moving on once the party was over. And at this point, the party looks to be over for Jordan Mason. I would add any of those running backs that I just mentioned if they are available on waivers for Jordan Mason. Everybody else here is worth hanging on to. The next man up, though, that I would move off of is Dalton Kincaid. You just don't need two tight ends. And now that Trey McBride is back from his bye week, the Cardinals' bye week was week 11, not this past week. All the same, you don't need Dalton Kincaid anymore, Bobby. You have Trey McBride. He's been the better option. Kincaid has been disappointing. That would be my second drop from this roster. Somebody that I'm okay to move on from since you have Trey McBride, who Kyler Murray seems to love to throw the football to. He doesn't like throwing the football to Marvin Harrison, but he likes throwing the football to Trey McBride. So McBride is your starting tight end rest of the way. Kincaid, not so much. And then as far as who to start, again, McBride at tight end, you can pivot off of Kincaid at this point. Your two wide receivers, I would tentatively go for now, probably Garrett Wilson and it's a tough spot for Jaden Reed against the Dolphins. They are the Dolphins are a pretty good secondary, although they will be on the road in Green Bay, and we're expecting snowy, wintry conditions, classic Green Bay December conditions. It's not quite December yet, but late November, close enough. I think it's going to be 27, 28 degrees on Thanksgiving night in Green Bay with a wintry mix at the very least expected. So I don't know that I necessarily want to play any Packers wide receivers. Tennessee this week gets, and Ridley was very good this past week, or good enough anyway. Wide receiver 2, so you'll take that. Against Washington, that's pretty good. Terry went nuts, but a lot of that came on an 86-yard touchdown, which was kind of like a desperation. It worked out, and we don't make excuses for how somebody produces. It's just what it comes down to is, did they produce or not? And Terry did, but it's a pretty tough matchup on the other side of that Calvin Ridley game. They're playing each other, Tennessee against Washington. Should see L'Jarius Sneed. Tentatively, I would probably go Garrett Wilson and Calvin Ridley, Bobby, at your two wide receiver spots. Flowers is in a tough spot against the Eagles, but at home catching the ball from Lamar Jackson, he should probably be fine. That's probably where I would go. 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, and a flex. I would probably go Garrett Wilson, Calvin Ridley, Zay Flowers in the flex, and Trey McBride at tight end. That's where I would go. But appreciate you becoming a member, Bobby. Thank you so much for the support. Let me know if you need anything else. Happy to give any more thoughts. Let's see what's going on, Greg. We got a few questions. You're good to rock with Hawkinson for the rest of the season, I would say. So we stashed him for this long. He's finally rounding into form. He had a nice game against the Bears. Yes, overtime helped a little bit with that, but doesn't matter. The fact remains he put up the points. We're not going to make any excuses for how production showed up in the box score or how long it took. It just comes down to, did he do it or not? Hawkinson is rounding into form. Now he's got he's got several weeks worth of games under his belt. Each week is another week removed from the injury. We can rock with Hawkinson moving forward. We can move with Hawkinson. We can rock with Hawkinson over Ferguson, over Schultz. Noah Gray has been incredible the past couple of weeks. I believe he has 4 touchdowns the past 2 weeks combined. That is a difficult. That's a difficult number to sustain. So obviously still splitting work with Travis Kelce. We can't possibly expect that. To replicate week after week after week. But Hawkinson is the guy that I would rock with. You stashed him this long, you might as well play him. Now he's healthy and he went over 100 yards this past week in a less than ideal matchup on paper. Let's just rock with Hawkinson. Let's just rock with Hawkinson. And I would definitely dump a little bit of fob on Stafford. He gets the New Orleans Saints this week. I only know that because I'm streaming him in a 12-team league, and I have been very happy with the results. New Orleans is bad. There's no other way around it. They're not good, especially on defense. They have struggled mightily. Maybe coming out of the bye week, they have a little bit of juice, but their season has spiraled out in a big way. The Rams are playing for something coming off of a loss. I would think Stafford is perfectly fine in the dome. It is a road game, but no conditions, no weather to worry about in a dome against a beatable secondary. So Stafford, I'm perfectly fine with. Love should be fine at home, but it's going to be really cold, and the Dolphins are. Maybe you worry about a Miami team playing in cold weather, but on the season, the Dolphins secondary has been really good and a difficult matchup for opposing quarterbacks and wide receivers. So if you want to pivot off of Love or at least give yourself another option to think about leading up to Thursday night, I'm okay with picking up Stafford. If you can make the room. And yes, you can do this. You can drop Pearsall or Watson. Maybe hang on to Watson just because Dobbs picked up the concussion. So hang on to Watson just in case for at least a week. But if you want to drop Pearsall at this point for the Denver rookie, that is fine. Pearsall's gonna be a little inconsistent. Again, just he missed a lot of time in the offseason. Not just from the shooting incident, but also he was injured coming into training camp, so he missed some time. We're essentially, he's in rookie mode right now, getting, he's playing his first 4 or 5 career games. There's going to be some inconsistencies, even though there's an opportunity there for him. You can drop Pearsall, and especially if it's Brandon Allen or Josh Dobbs, who, maybe Dobbs gets an opportunity if Brock Purdy is still banged up or can't play. Yeah, Pearsall can be dropped. I don't mind Keenan. Allen this week against the Lions. The Bears will have to throw. It's a beatable matchup. It's a dome game, so no concerns about the weather. And while this is a mismatch on paper as far as the Lions being a significantly better team than the Bears, but Caleb has looked decent. Caleb Williams has looked decent the past couple of weeks since they moved on from Shane Waldron. There's absolutely an opportunity for Keenan Allen to come through in a beatable matchup against Detroit in a game where you expect Chicago to have to throw the ball 40 times because they're probably going to be trailing. And even if they're not, they have to stay aggressive. Even if they have a lead, the Bears, they're going to have to stay aggressive on the road against a team that is much better than them, even if they find themselves with a lead. So, yeah, rock with Hawkinson. Pick up Stafford for Pearsall if you're not desperate for running back help. Again, Abdullah, Edwards, McNichols, Bigsby, these are all the names that I'm looking at on the wire this week. If you don't have a dire need at running back, dropping Pearsall and picking up Stafford and giving yourself some quarterback flexibility. This is a time of year where I am okay having a couple of quarterback options, and you're playing the matchups with the playoffs fast approaching. This is a time where that's okay. And then you can drop Pearsall, or I would drop Pearsall for Stafford. Maybe not necessarily for any Denver receivers, but Stafford is worth a grab. Let me know what else I can help with, Greg. What's going on, Derek? I see he hate me's question next. I got you. Who should you start? Well, I'm rocking with let's see. You have Bo Nix, so I would definitely play him. He's been awesome. I would definitely play Bo and Stafford. Stafford's playing the Saints again. incredibly beatable matchup. So I'm good with that. You know what you're doing with Saquon and Kamara. You're firing both of those guys up as your running backs. Evans, Tyreek, Sutton. If you play three receivers, if it's two and a flex, if it's two receivers and a flex, it's those three guys. If it's three receivers and a flex, then I would add Judy to that mix. Judy is on fire recently. And this is full PPR, right? It's PPR. Yeah. So I like Judy over somebody like Ramondre Stevenson and Rashad White. Judy's been cooking. If it's two receivers and a flex, though, then I would go Evans, Tyreek, and Sutton. And then Goddard looks like that's your only option at tight end, which is fine. Obviously, he's streaky. He's up and down. He didn't have a huge game on Sunday night. But it's certainly possible that he comes back to life in this matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, which I assume is the game of the week, Eagles-Ravens. And the Ravens are a very beatable back seven. So Goddard is viable. We can't play Quentin Johnston. I mean, he'll probably bounce back, Quentin Johnston, but holy hell, was last night bad. He dropped the ball at least 3 times. It might have been 4, to the tune of a goose egg last night. That was terrible. Robinson, we don't know if he's going to play. Stevenson, no. We need to see some more signs of life from the Patriots offense than what we saw this past week. Rashad White lost opportunities to Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker this past week. He ended up with double-digit PPR points, which is great, but he still looks bad as a runner. He's just he's so hard to trust. He's good as a pass catcher, but he's hard to trust week to week. And Bucky Irving is continues to emerge. He had a monster week against the Giants this past week. So Bo Nix and Stafford are your quarterbacks. Saquon, Kamara, Evans, Tyreek, Sutton. I would include Judy in there if it's 3 receivers and a flex. If not, then Judy to the bench. And then Goddard is your tight end. That's what I would take. That's what I would do. That's where I would go. I think I think that hopefully answers the question, Amy. Let me know if you need anything else. But good to see you. Hopefully this leads to a dub. Derek, do you start Kincaid or keep rolling with Disley? Disley had a quiet night last night against the Ravens, which was a little disappointing, especially considering Quentin Johnston did absolutely nothing. This week, the Chargers get the Falcons. That's a good matchup. By the numbers, it's not a great matchup for Kincaid against the 49ers, but it is prime time. It is Sunday night football. And if the 49ers are missing, again, Bosa, if they're missing Nick Bosa, and any other pieces along their front 7 or along the front 4 or in the front 7 in general, then Kincaid is a little bit more viable. But I mean, he's just not doing anything. He hasn't cleared 50 yards receiving in a month. He's getting the targets. It's just not turning into any type of decent production. He has 1 tight end 1 performance on the season, Dalton Kincaid does. I just don't trust him. And now I'm assuming Amari Cooper is probably a little healthier than he was going into the bye week when he was nursing that wrist injury. I have a hard time trusting Kincaid. I probably would go Disley. It's a better matchup, and he's been better recently than Kincaid. His lows are low, tight end 3, but that's just a tight end playing the tight end position. At the end of the day, 90% of them are dart throws anyway. I would probably go Disley in a good matchup where you expect the Chargers to be throwing the ball on the road. I would probably go Disley. I don't trust Dalton Kincaid. I just don't trust him. He has not been good this year. His stock has fallen a good amount this year. I don't trust him. And Greg, I would still suggest Stafford as your pickup. I would suggest Stafford as your pickup still over any ancillary wide receivers. You have to keep, I guess you have to keep running Debo out there unless Purdy doesn't play again. Then you can switch to Harrison. But I would definitely play Keenan Allen this week. The Bears' passing attack has been better the past couple of weeks, and it's a good matchup by the numbers. The problem with MVS is you can chase his production, but you have to be prepared to take a zero with MVS, which will happen at some point. He's all or nothing. MVS is in play when you are a deep underdog. When you're a desperate underdog and you're just swinging for the fences, you just need a home run play. That's when you fire MVS. That's it. So I would look to avoid. And Derek, if Montgomery is out, so it sounds like you're going to be fine with Montgomery. He practiced in a limited fashion today. Head coach Dan Campbell said he feels good about him. The vibes seem to be all right with David Montgomery, so I think you're going to be fine firing him up. And obviously, if he plays, you fire him up. If he doesn't go, I know that it's going to be kind of cold and potentially windy in Green Bay on Thanksgiving night. So I don't know about Reed. That being said, I trust Reed more than Shakir on a week-to-week basis. So I guess my answer would be Jaden Reed if Montgomery is not able to play, but it sounds like he will play. So I think you're okay. You should be fine. Yeah, you should be all right. And then Arturo, you just have to hold? Is that Jefferson? Yeah, you do. You just have to hold Justin Jefferson. I mean, if your trade deadline is still active, you can see what anybody may want for him, but I mean, he's been obviously this past week was a bottoming out week, and Justin Jefferson has one or two of these like stinker clunker games a year. It's not totally surprising that he had a bad week in a bad matchup by the numbers. It's just that's fine. Get it out of the way now because we want him, obviously we want him full go for the fantasy playoffs. Even these past couple of weeks where he's been kind of pedestrian, he still had 6 catches for 81 yards, and week 10 wasn't great. 5 catches for 48 yards, but still 9 targets, playing the vast majority of the snaps. I wouldn't panic on Justin Jefferson yet. Like, what are you gonna try to get for him? Jamar Chase? Like, Amon-Ra St. Brown? You're not selling him for anything less. One bad week from Justin Jefferson is not something for me to think I need to move on. For me, it's like, okay, get it out of the way now. And let's go nuts during the fantasy playoffs. That's what I care more about. So, yes, I would just hold Justin Jefferson. Let's see. Nemo's got a question. Is Vidal worth the pickup? No. We just haven't seen enough from Vidal. He's very much like in the development stage. Hassan Haskins is running ahead of him right now. Vidal is just not ready to regularly contribute. Could he see more opportunities if Dobbins misses time? Sure. But Dobbins missed pretty much he missed the entire second half of the game last night, and Vidal was not in there. It was Gus Edwards and it was Hassan Haskins who got in there here and there with opportunities. Now, the Chargers were eventually trailing by multiple scores for a decent amount of the fourth quarter, so they were throwing regardless. I don't know that even if the game script is a little different, Vidal is viable or worth a pickup in 10 or 12 team redraft leagues. I would not worry about Vidal. I would still prefer Edwards. I would prefer in deeper leagues, I would prefer Hassan Haskins at this point to Kamani Vidal. He's just not there yet. He's just not there yet. And then, once again, appreciate everybody's patience. I'm just working through member questions first. I will get to everybody. I have my spot in line. I see your questions. I will get to you. But again, a perk of being a member of the channel, that gets priority responses to questions. So I'm just going to keep it moving. So like I just mentioned, Noah Gray, 4 touchdowns the past 2 weeks. He's cooking. It's not sustainable, though. This pace is never one that you hang your hat on and think, yeah, we can expect even 1 touchdown per week the rest of the season. It would also depend on how desperate you are at tight end to fill that spot. But I mean, who would I play Noah Gray over? Dalton Kincaid, maybe, but like that's as off of Dalton Kincaid as I am, that's still a tough sell because Kincaid is the starter and Noah Gray splits opportunities with Travis Kelce. You can say the same thing about Zach Ertz. You could say the same thing about Will Dissly. You could say the same thing about Mike Gesicki. You could say the same thing about Kyle Pitts. Taysom Hill, Evan Engram, assuming Trevor Lawrence comes back. Like all of these guys are their team's clear-cut, bona fide starters at the position. I'm just going to, by nature of the beast, want to roll the dice on those guys more than a backup who is hot for a 2-game stretch. I don't want to take away from Noah Gray what he's doing. He's balled out the past couple of weeks, and he looks like he's emerging as a real threat in this offense regularly. The problem is, if he doesn't catch a touchdown, he's not going to be a tight end 1 on the week in all likelihood, splitting work with Travis Kelce. If you have Dalton Kincaid and you're sick of it and you want to pick up Noah Gray, that's fine. I don't blame you. I can hardly blame you for something like that. Outside of that, it's tough, though. Assuming Trevor Lawrence is back, I'd rather roll the dice with Evan Engram. I'd rather roll the dice with Taysom Hill, Kyle Pitts, Mike Gesicki, Will Dissly, Zach Ertz. I'd rather play all of these guys on top of the obvious plays. Kelce, Bowers, Otton. I still think Otton is an obvious play. He only caught 1 ball this past week, but also the Bucks blew out the Giants. Njoku, McBride, Kittle, Jonnu. Jonnu Smith is firmly in the tight end 1 conversation rest of the season. Even Laporta, Pitts, Hawkinson. These are all names that I would rather play over Noah Gray in week 13. So deeper leagues where you're really desperate, I would say the cutoff for Noah Gray is Dalton Kincaid. If you have Dalton Kincaid and you're just over it, which is totally fair, you could take a flyer on Noah Gray. It's just, again, remember, touchdowns are random, and he's been the beneficiary of a little bit of luck this past. And again, not trying to take anything away from Noah Gray, but touchdowns are random, and Travis Kelce is still there producing as the starting tight end. Those touchdowns are eventually going to swing back his direction. But if you want to give Noah Gray a shot over somebody like Dalton Kincaid, I don't blame you. What's going on, Jake? I also see MVM. I also see Fortune. What's going on, Fortune? I have a lot of members in here. Good to see all the members. Hopefully, everybody's doing well. Hopefully, everybody in general is doing well. But again, got to give a special shout out to the members. Is Pittman worth a pickup? First of all, don't drop Downs. Don't drop Downs. Downs is that team's wide receiver 1. I know he got hurt and he didn't do that much this past week. And apparently, reportedly, he's a long shot to play this week. But Downs is a player that I am keeping. I am not dropping Josh Downs. No. Pittman is way more enticing if Downs is out. But Downs isn't the player I want to drop to add Pittman. There's got to be somebody else that we can drop instead of Downs. And if there isn't, then I'm just not going to pick him up. But I'm hanging on to Josh Downs even if he can't play week 13. There's no way I'm dropping him. He is that team's wide receiver 1. Let's see. MVM, Kelsey or Taysom Hill. I mean, the Chiefs get who are the Chiefs playing this week? It doesn't matter. It's gonna be it's really hard for me to justify playing Taysom Hill over Travis Kelsey. I know it's been the Noah Gray show these past couple of weeks, but we still have faith in Travis Kelsey. We still have to rock with Travis Kelsey. They're playing the Raiders this week at home on Black Friday. The Chiefs love to kill the Raiders. Patrick Mahomes loves to beat up on the Raiders. For his career, he loves to do that. That doesn't mean the Raiders have lost every game. They've stolen a couple here and there, but the Chiefs, this variation of the Chiefs is superior to the Raiders, and they like to let them know it. I would think Travis Kelsey gets back on track this week. I would fire him up. It's a good matchup for Taysom against the Rams, and obviously Swiss Army knife roll for the rest of the season. It's just, if I have Travis Kelsey, I can't bench him for Taysom Hill. I just can't. And then Herbert gets the Falcons on the road. Daniels gets Tennessee, and I think it's a home game. The Washington offense has been struggling recently, but that's probably where I would go because Daniels is running at such a high clip. I would go Daniels. He's coming off the QB1 overall performance this past week. I would go Daniels. And we have to sit 3. Well, you're playing Achane, you're playing Kyron Williams. I would sit. You have to sit 3 between Achane, Kyron, Tracy, Nico, London, Evans, JSN, Jennings. I would sit Smith and Jigba. I would probably sit Jennings, especially if Purdy is out again. And I hate to say it, but I would probably sit Tracy. I just don't trust this Giants offense right now, even in a good matchup against the Cowboys. Achane, Kyron, Nico, London, Evans are all too good to sit. These are all really good options. This is a good problem to have, MVM. I would probably sit Tracy, JSN, and Jennings. Tracy, bad offense. JSN has been good. But these other 3 receivers are more reliable. Nico, London, Evans are more reliable. And the same can be said for Jennings as well. Yep. I would sit Tracy, I would sit JSN, and I would sit Jennings. That's where I would go. Uh, you can drop Watson, Jake. Yeah, I would prefer to do that. I would prefer to drop Watson for Pittman. I'm not dropping Downs. No shot. No shot. I see Nemo helping folks out. I appreciate that. If anybody in here has any thoughts about anybody's questions, I always encourage people to feel free to chime in, help each other out. That's what it's all about. And Bobby, yes, this is a good strategy for the fantasy playoffs, but obviously you want to obviously secure your spot first. But I do that wherever I can. I'm in a situation in a 12-team league where I'm pretty good for the playoffs. I have Derrick Henry as my RB1. I've rostered Justice Hill all year, and that's not changing anytime soon. I have Javonte Williams. I don't know if I'm going to keep hanging on to Jaleel McLaughlin, but it's made me feel better about having Javonte over the course of the season. So maybe I'll keep things the way they are. So if you have Bijan and Algier, do nothing. Hold them both. If you can add Emmanuel Wilson for Jordan Mason, and that's what you feel most comfortable doing, I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. That works for me. Yes. Handcuffing your running back situation is always the way to go in the fantasy playoffs because if we obviously hope for a clean bill of health for every player coming out of every week, but this is football. That's not going to happen. So, yes, I'm okay with picking up Emmanuel Wilson to back up Jacobs. Yep, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And you can drop Mason to make it happen. Yeah, Mason is droppable. Unless you have McCaffrey, but if you don't have McCaffrey, Mason can be dropped. And then is Kenny Gainwell worth a stash? I mean, I always like finding players on good teams. Kenny Gainwell is not the type of player that I want to go chasing, though. He had his first touchdown of the season this past week against the Rams. Yes, the schedule is good, but there have been a lot of good matchups on paper for the Eagles' run game, and he has one RB2 performance on the week, and it was this past week. He's been the RB32 or worse every other game this year. Kenny Gainwell is not on the stash radar. He had a nice game on Sunday Night Football, but he's not on the stash radar. Yes, his opportunity is good because he plays on a great offense behind a great offensive line and could be asked to spell Saquon here and there down the stretch. But he hasn't done enough for me to warrant stashing. If you have Saquon, sure, stash Kenny Gainwell if you can afford the roster spot. But if you don't have Saquon, then no. No, we don't need to add Kenny Gainwell. Oh, dude, Nemo, I'm sorry. Quentin Johnston absolutely torched people last night. 4 drops. Absolutely brutal. Been there, man. The pain, yeah. We've all suffered painful losses in fantasy. That's certainly one of them. That's one way to go, and it's not a fun one. We bounce back this week. Rest of season: Kincaid, Kraft, Komet, Noah Gray. Yeah, so I guess this is the kind of the question that we're working with here. We're like as far as Kincaid versus somebody like a Noah Gray. I would probably put And Cole Kmet has been playing decently well recently. I might rank them just like that, Bobby. I would probably put Kincaid first, even though he's been disappointing. At least it's Josh Allen that he catches the football from. But I don't have like when I say he's first of this group, he's like the tight end 15 for me for the rest of the year. Kraft might be ahead of him, and I know he had a nice game this past week. He caught a touchdown. But it's musical chairs for the Packers pass catchers, which makes it difficult to trust them on a week-to-week basis. And again, the only reason Kraft did well this past week was because he caught a touchdown. He does have 4 tight end 1 weeks, though, this year to Kincaid's 1. So I guess I'm okay putting Kraft 1. But again, it is a log jam as far as Green Bay pass catchers go. So it's almost like it depends on the matchup. Probably Kraft, then Kincaid, then Kmet, then Noah Gray. Honestly, what I'm doing at tight end at this point, if I don't have a clear-cut, stable option, I'm just streaming. I'll play the matchups, and Kincaid is in that streaming radar. To that point, he can be dropped for a more enticing matchup this week. Dalton Kincaid is on the roster bubble. So these 4 guys are interesting. I guess Kraft has been the most consistent this year of the group. But like anything else, you have 4 tight end 1 weeks and then 8 tight end 2 weeks. It's like you're not separating yourself as a clear-cut option. Still, he has outproduced Dalton Kincaid this year, so I'll give the slightest of edges to Kraft, then Kincaid, then Kmet, then Noah Gray. And then what's going on, Fortune? So, yeah, again, Mason is a drop unless you have Christian McCaffrey. So if you have McCaffrey, grab Mason. If you have Breece Hall, grab Braylon Allen. If you have Saquon, grab Kenny Gainwell. If you have Joe Mixon, grab Daria Gumbawale. If you have Derrick Henry, grab Justice Hill. If you have Bijan, again, Tyler Algier is probably already on rosters. Hopefully you were able to grab him in a trade if he was. If he's on waivers and you have Bijan, grab Algier. Yep. Secure the handcuffs for sure. It's a good way to go into the fantasy playoffs. And depending on who you have, if you have Taysom, I mean, whoever your starting tight end is, then I guess in theory you don't have a need for Taysom anymore. Yeah. And then start 3 between Metcalf, Wilson, Higgins, Jennings, Mooney, JMO. Probably those first 3 names. I forget who Seattle has this week. I'm not totally caught up on all week 13 matchups. I know some, but not all. He gets the Jets. It's a tough spot for Metcalf. I don't like that spot as much. Maybe Wilson, Higgins. I would probably say Wilson, Higgins, Metcalf is your safe play, Fortune, if you think you can play it safe. JMO would be my swing for the fences play, my upside play. It's not a good matchup for DK. He is good enough to come through in bad matchups, though. I would probably just play those first 3. Those first 3 names. And let's see. Jake, it's fair to be concerned about Jacoby Myers with Aiden O'Connell in there now. Minshew was able to prop him up. Aiden O'Connell is, you know, we'll see what he looks like coming back from injury, but Aiden O'Connell hasn't inspired a ton of confidence to this point. So I don't know how much we can trust him. Waddle, Jalen Waddle has been awful this year. So of course he was probably on a lot of benches this past week when he went nuts. The Packers at home are a pretty stingy matchup for opposing offenses, and it's going to be cold as hell, and we're expecting a wintry mix in Green Bay. So I do have some caution with the Miami offense in general outside of Devon Achane, because at least they can just turn around and hand him the ball. But if you're worried about Myers, which is fair, although the Chiefs secondary has been beaten up pretty good the past couple of weeks, you can go with Waddle. It's just I don't know how much I trust chasing a performance last week's after he's had such a bad season in a bad matchup on a short week on the road where we're expecting some bad weather. So tentatively, Jake, I would probably plan on trying to pick up Pittman and playing him if Downs is not able to play. Because the Patriots are awful on defense right now. They're the same defense that Jalen Waddle just went off against. So I would feel probably pretty good about Michael Pittman's chances against them, especially if Josh Downs is out. I would plan to pick up and play Pittman if Downs can't go. That's where I would go. That's where I would go. All right. I think I have all of my member questions up to this point. Appreciate everybody's patience as I work through those. If any of my members need anything else, just let me know and I will make sure to get to it promptly. But for now, let me go back up to the top. Let's kick things off with everybody else's questions. Yeah, appreciate you coming in. Thanks for stopping by. Otten or Hawkinson moving forward. The Bucks have oh my god. Again, apologies. I'm not totally caught up on all the matchups just yet. I'm not super worried about Cade Otton. He only had one catch this past week. Oh, they get Carolina. Oh, man, that's a hard one to go away from if I have Cade Otton. And Hawkinson came to life this past week. He gets the Arizona Cardinals. I would tentatively say Otton. He didn't have a huge game, but he didn't need to. The Bucks had that game won by halftime. They were just running the ball. I mean, they won 30-7. They were pretty much, or something like that. They were pretty much just like that game was over by halftime, and they were looking to escape that game without any injuries. I'm not worried about the fact that Otton only caught one ball. And now he gets the best matchup by the numbers in the NFL this week. That's where I would go. I would go Otton. Hawkinson was great last week. If he comes through again in a bad matchup, then Hawkinson might be just your guy moving forward. But for one more week, I would rock with Otton. Give me Otton against the Carolina Panthers. They are giving up the most production for fantasy purposes to opposing tight ends in the NFL this year. Yep, I would go Otton. Murray or Mahomes rest of season? I would still go Kyler here. Mahomes has been a lot better recently, but his playoff schedule is not looking very good. Doesn't he have he has Miami and San Francisco, I think? Neither of those matchups are very good by the numbers for opposing quarterbacks. Now, he's got a great matchup this week against Vegas, but week 15 he's on the road against Cleveland. I don't love that. Week 16 he's at home against Houston. That could be okay. And then week 17 he's on the road against Pittsburgh, and I believe that's a really short week. That's like a Wednesday game. It's cuz it's the Christmas Day game on Netflix. Um I would say Murray. The Kyler Murray experience is a frustrating one, right? He goes nuclear one week and then he shits the bed the next. Um, Not what you want from a guy that you expect top flight QB1 production from. However, his playoff schedule is incredibly good. And for right now, that's where I would go. That's where I would go. As far as your wide receiver question, Devontae Smith missed this past week with a hamstring injury, so we just don't know his availability yet or what that looks like. Keenan Allen plays on Thursday, plays on Thanksgiving, short week. If we don't know if Devontae Smith is going to play this weekend and Keenan Allen is your best alternative, then you might as well plan to play Keenan Allen on Thanksgiving. It is a good matchup by the numbers, and the Bears will be throwing a good amount in that game, regardless of game script. If they're winning, they'll be throwing because the Lions are a better team and they need to stay aggressive. If they're trailing, they'll be throwing because they're trailing. um, I would plan to play Keenan Allen if we don't have any Devontae Smith updates. But if we do, if the vibes are positive that Devontae Smith will come back this week, then I want to play Devontae Smith because he gets the Baltimore Ravens, and they are the most beatable secondary for fantasy purposes by the numbers. We just need to see what Devontae Smith's availability might look like before kickoff of the Bears-Lions game. But if we're not getting positive vibes or good news from Devontae Smith by the time the first game on Thanksgiving kicks off, then we have to play Keenan Allen. We just have to. Okay, I see other questions. I promise I will get to them, but I got to jump down. I have a few more member questions, so I got to get to them. What's going on, Rojo? Myers, Jennings, or Mooney? Myers is potentially catching passes from Aiden O'Connell. Jennings is potentially not catching passes from Brock Purdy for the second straight week. Mooney will have his quarterback. He will have Kirk Cousins to throw the ball to or catch the ball from, and that's probably where I would go. That's probably where I would go. I wouldn't play Myers with Aiden O'Connell. I would play Mooney, Rojo, if Brock Purdy is out. If Brock Purdy is back this week, then Jennings has a really good argument to start, but we have to see what plays out there. We don't know if Brock Purdy is going to return this week. We're not sure. If he plays, then I feel fine about Jennings. If he doesn't, then I would play Mooney. So we just got to keep an eye on Brock Purdy's status, Rojo. His availability is what will ultimately determine the answer to your question. Because I would play Jennings if Purdy is healthy. Fortune has a follow-up. Would I drop Mooney for one of either Jordan Mason or Braylon Allen? I'd rather not drop Mooney. Unless you run 5 or 6 deep at wide receiver and that makes Mooney expendable for you, then okay, fine. But Mooney's been really, really good this year. He's not necessarily the guy that I want to drop. Do I want to secure your backfield and get the handcuffs to your starters? Yes. Is Mooney the guy that I want to drop? I'd rather not. I'd rather find somebody else to drop. Like Mooney has been really good this year. It's the rock. Oh, okay. Metcalf, Wilson, Higgins, Jennings, Mooney, JMO. I mean, I guess you could. I guess Metcalf. Yeah, I guess you could. Fortune. I guess you could drop Mooney. He's not my favorite to drop. I would feel, I'll just say it right now. If Brock Purdy is facing an extended absence, then Jennings would be the one that I would drop. Um, but we just don't know we don't know what that looks like yet. We're not sure what his availability is. Will he play this week? We don't know. We thought he would play this week. So if he misses another game, I would probably try to take this up, Fortune, to Sunday. I mean, if you're worried about somebody stealing Braylon Allen or Jordan Mason, I understand. But in all likelihood, those guys fly under the radar this week because the Jets are coming off a bye, and Jordan Mason has done nothing since McCaffrey came back. I would be willing to bet that you can let both of them clear waivers and take your decision up until we know if Brock Purdy's going to play this week or not. If Purdy's out for a second straight week, I would drop Jennings. But if Purdy is back, then I would drop Mooney. That's where I would go. That's where I would go. Okay. Back to the top. Do you drop Jordan Mason for Warren, Dowdle, or ET? Yes, 100%. I would pick up Jalen Warren. I would pick up Jalen Warren. I think he's going to be a good stash the rest of the way. He's getting more involved. He's healthy now. The Steelers are coming off their not the bye week. They're coming off a what did they do last week? Oh, they played Thursday. That's right. They played the Thursday game. They're coming off of like a mini bye. I was like, I know Pittsburgh wasn't on bye this past week. They played the Thursday night game against Cleveland in the snow. And Warren had a nice day in a bad matchup. I would pick up Warren. I like Dowdle, but I think the sand has run out in that hourglass, so to speak. Dowdle is difficult to trust on a difficult to trust Cowboys offense moving forward. Plus, he fumbled. It wasn't a fumble so much as I think it was Bobby Wagner just ripped the ball out of his hands, but doesn't matter. A fumble's a fumble, and that's how it gets classified. So he fumbled, and then on top of that, ETN has just been bad. He just hasn't been good. So, yes, I would drop Jordan Mason for Jalen Warren 100%, unless you have Christian McCaffrey. But I do want to pick up Jalen Warren. I 100% want to pick up Jalen Warren. For sure. I like Jalen Warren quite a bit for the rest of the season. Your trade deadline is tomorrow. That's an interesting trade deadline, but we roll with it. You have Smith and Jigba, you have Pickens, you have Neighbors, you have Waddle, you have Myers, you have Ridley. I would not trade Pacheco if he's your RB3 because he is coming back. And what happens if something happens to your top two running backs? Now all of a sudden you're scratching the bottom of the barrel trying to supplant RB1 production with RB3 or 4 production. I would not trade Pacheco. I like Pickens rest of the way. I like Neighbors rest of the way. He still picked up 6 catches for 65 yards this past week, which is not, week winning production, but it's still decent production. Waddle came to life. Myers is difficult to trust the rest of the way without Minshew, but we can see how things play out there for at least a week or two. And Ridley has come on strong. I would prefer to package 2 of these guys for an alpha if you can. I'd rather package 2 of these wide receivers than 1 of your running backs. You could try to sell high on Waddle after a big game this past week. You could sell Waddle and Myers and see if that nets you one of the studs that you're looking for. Amon-Ra, See if you could buy Justin Jefferson, who's coming off of a down game. I would 100% look into that because I'm not worried about him at all. I know he was bad this past weekend, and he's been kind of pedestrian the past couple of weeks. Justin Jefferson is a player that I'm still rolling the dice on, though, no matter what. Like, there's a name that you could try to target. Could you try to take Waddle and maybe Myers and try to get Justin Jefferson? I would see if you can swing that, but I would not trade one of your running backs because if one of them goes down, now you can't make any more trades after tomorrow, and now you're stuck with limited options at running back. I would not trade Pacheco because he's coming back. That's what I would look to do. If your trade deadline has not yet passed, go check on Justin Jefferson and see if you can't get him coming off of a down week because he's not somebody I'm worried about at all. That's what I would try to do. All right, let's see. I got this string of member questions. Appreciate you guys again. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for liking on the way in. Let's see. Cousins, Stafford, or Winston. I would probably go Stafford here. They're playing the Saints in the Dome. It's a great matchup. And he still gets to throw the ball to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. I would go Stafford here. Over Winston, over Cousins. McBride or Otten is... Did I already get this question? I think it was Otten or Hawkinson. I would probably go Otten this week. I'm rolling the dice on Otten for one more week because it's the Carolina Panthers. They are the top matchup for opposing tight ends. They are the most favorable. They are the best matchup for opposing tight ends. I would go Cade Otton. And then I'm going Hurts over Kyler. Kyler is frustrating. There will be weeks where he gets you 25, and then there are weeks where he gets you 10. Hurts is not the slam dunk QB1 week over week like he has been in seasons past because Saquon Barkley is having an historic season. But I trust Hurts more than I trust Kyler right now because I trust the Eagles' offense more than I trust the Cardinals' offense. I'll take Hurts. And then Stevenson or Bucky, I'll go Bucky. Again, they're playing the Carolina Panthers. It's a great matchup, and Bucky Irving is taking over. Bucky Irving is taking over that backfield. He looked great this past week. Looked very good. I would go Bucky. Yep. I would go Stafford at quarterback. I would go Otten at tight end. I would go Hurts at your second quarterback option, and I would go Bucky over Stevenson. Bucky's been awesome. Bucky's been so good. I think my answer is the same here. I would play Bucky. I like Tyrone Tracy, but this Giants offense is going nowhere fast other than down. It's a great matchup, but I don't trust them. I trust the Bucs offense right now, and in a great matchup against Carolina, I'll take Bucky Irving. He is looking better and better every week. I would go Bucky. 100%. Oh man, Bucky looks really good. I have him in a keeper league, and I'm very excited to keep him next year. That's all I'll say. But Bucky looks like he's got, Bucky's going to be a factor just moving forward beyond this season. He's going to be good. As far as Jennings or Judy, I'm tempted to just say, just go Judy. Jerry Judy's balling out right now, and it's a revenge game. We got our first. Let's put it on the radar. We got a revenge game for this week. Jerry Judy going back to Denver to play the Broncos. He's on a heater. He's on a hot streak. You know that he wants to come into Denver and keep it going, keep it rolling. I would probably play Judy. Jennings is in play if Brock Purdy plays, but right now we just don't know if he's going to play. We got to see what that injury report looks like. But Judy's balling out, and it's a revenge game. I would probably play Judy. Jennings is in play if Purdy plays, but that's not a guarantee right now. We got to see how that shakes out. Tentatively plan on Judy. Jerry Judy, revenge game. If anybody here plays DFS, get him into those lineups this week. You heard it here first. Let's see. I had a string of member questions here. Thank you guys again for your support. Rojo's got something down below. Baker or Herbert this week? Baker gets Carolina. Herbert gets the Falcons on the road. Both solid matchups. I may have to kick this one to down the road, Rojo, like to the like closer to the weekend, closer to kickoff, because both are viable. I'm early thoughts are I'm tempted to say Herbert. I would expect he has to do more. Like the game against Baker didn't have to do a ton against the Giants because they blew the doors off early. It could be more of the same against Carolina this week. Herbert, I would expect, has to do more in what I would assume is a more competitive game against the Falcons. So my early thought is Herbert. But we obviously got to see practice reports if anybody is missing. If Dobbins is out, that hurts the offense. If anybody else is missing on either offense for either of these guys, that will play a role. That'll be a factor. So we got to see what injury reports maybe look like. But my early thoughts is to play Herbert. I just would expect that he has to do more in what is on paper looking more like a more competitive game. Bucks versus Panthers is a mismatch. Although the Panthers have been playing decently well the past couple of weeks. Bryce Young is he's showing us something, isn't he? I think I'm leaning Herbert, Rojo, but I think I need the week to have a more definitive answer for you. And luckily we have the week because these guys don't play until Sunday. I'm tentatively leaning Herbert, but let's see how this week shakes out. Maybe that Panthers team, maybe they do make it competitive. They're frisky now. They're officially frisky. The Panthers, they are henceforth for the rest of the season. They're the frisky felines because Bryce Young is starting to play pretty well. So let's see about that one. Tentatively Herbert. Let's see. I got more member questions. This is where I'm at. Is it okay to keep two defenses this late in the season? Yes. This is when, you've probably heard me a lot this year. Don't hold two quarterbacks in a one quarterback league. Don't hold two tight ends ever. That's the one that I'm still mostly hanging my hat on. Don't hold two defenses. This is the time where it's okay. Because you're squeezing you're compartmentalizing, right? You want to get yourself ready for the fantasy playoffs and you want to set yourself up for as much success as you possibly can week to week. And that means that a great matchup, a bad matchup one week might be one that you wait on for a great matchup the next week. Now, obviously, you got to win the game, but once you're set on your starting lineup in a playoff game, your bench doesn't matter as much, right? You want to shrink the bench, so to speak. You're not relying on an RB6 or a wide receiver 5 anymore. Your starters are your starters. in the fantasy playoffs. So if your spot is locked up, you're in good shape, you know you're going to be in the playoffs. It's just a matter of who you're playing and what your seed is. This is when it's okay. Grab that second quarterback, grab that second defense. I still prefer to only have one tight end. But if you don't have a clear-cut bona fide option, then it's okay to have two. Yes, the answer is yes. At this time of year, you're shrinking your bench. Your wide receiver 6 is not a factor anymore. Your running back 5 is not a factor anymore. This is when it's okay. This is when it's all right to roster 2 quarterbacks in 1 quarterback leagues, to roster 2 defenses. Even a second tight end is okay if your starting lineup is locked in and maybe your tight end situation is a fluid one. This is 100% when it's okay. So yeah, play the matchups. I'm totally good with that. Just be aware, you have the Steelers and the Chiefs. They play each other week 17, and I don't know if I like either one of those defenses for that matchup. But obviously, we'll get to championship week when we get there. So for now, yes, that is fine. Let's see. You traded Amon-Ra for Kincaid and Jamar Chase. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I'm not big on Kincaid because Kincaid has been incredibly disappointing this year, but you traded a stud for a stud and you picked up an ancillary option just as as something that you have available to you that you could choose to go with in Kincaid. Yeah, I'm fine with that. In the context of this trade, I'm okay with Kincaid. You traded Amon-Ra, but you got Jamar Chase. So, like, you traded a stud for a stud, and you picked up a tight end who has been very disappointing this year, but we keep going back to the same thing every week. At least he catches passes from Josh Allen. And that will be something that we can at least hang our hat on when ultimately making tight end decisions for the rest of the season if Kincaid is one of your options. So, yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that trade. I'm good with that. And just to follow up, you now have let's see. You have Lamar, you have Kamara, you have Chase Brown. Nice. You have Chase himself. You already have Taysom and Hawkinson. Okay. Then I don't really care. Okay, since you have both Taysom and Hawkinson, I don't care that you traded for Kincaid. In fact, I wish you would have gotten maybe another depth running back instead. Or just trade. If you just like Jamar Chase, I would have been perfectly fine with a 1-for-1 swap because now Kincaid is your tight end 3 and you just have no use for that. Again, I don't mind acquiring Chase for St. Brown. It's a top 5 wide receiver for a top 5 wide receiver. So that's fine. Kincaid doesn't really do a whole lot for you, though, if you already have Taysom and Hawkinson. Now you're rostering. Is this like, or you traded? Wait. Oh, I'm dyslexic. Apologies. You traded St. Brown and Kincaid. Why did I read that the completely wrong way? All right, ignore that. Okay. So you unloaded Kincaid actually. All right. So in that case, I like it because you have Hill and Hawkinson. Sorry, I read that completely backwards. My bad. I read that completely backwards. So you got rid of Amon-Ra and Kincaid. So you gave up the 2 to get Chase. Okay. But you have Taysom and Hawkinson, so Kincaid was expendable for you. So for real, it's just St. Brown for Chase. Again, I'm fine with that. I would probably play Taysom gets the Rams, Hawkinson gets who do the Vikings play this week? Arizona. I would probably play Taysom this week. It's a tougher matchup by the numbers for Hawkinson. And the Rams are a very beatable matchup for anybody. I would probably plan to play Taysom. Let's obviously see what injury reports and practice reports look like this week, but I would probably play Taysom. My mistake. I don't know why I read that as St. Brown for Kincaid and Chase. I read that wrong. It was St. Brown and Kincaid for Chase. But you have Hill and Hawkinson, so Kincaid was expendable for you. Yeah, I'm fine with that. And I would play Taysom Hill. Yeah, it looks like a good team. That's a good team. Good squad. Stroud or Darnold this week, or you could pick up Geno. Seattle has let's see. I know Darnold has Arizona. It's not a bad matchup. Um, Geno has the Jets. I would not. It's a revenge game for Geno against the Jets, but I don't actually love that spot for him. That is a tough matchup by the numbers. Stroud, who has been a little disappointing this year. Stroud gets Jacksonville, though. That's a great matchup. I would probably plan to play Stroud. He's been disappointing, but at least he was a QB1 this past week against Tennessee, and he figures to be, he should have similar success against Jacksonville. You feel much better about Stroud now that Nico Collins is back to full strength. I'll play Stroud. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Yeah. I would play Stroud over Darnold over Geno. Do you drop Ingram, Disley, MVS, or Benson for Corum? It depends on who. If you're strong at wide receiver, then I would drop MVS. If you're not strong at wide receiver and you need the depth, then I would keep MVS. What we don't know, what makes this difficult, is we don't know the health of Trevor Lawrence just yet, right? If we knew Lawrence was going to not play, then I would tell you to just drop Ingram. He's practicing on Monday and will be this is Trevor Lawrence. He practiced today and will be evaluated later this week. I would drop Disley. I would drop MVS if your wide receiver depth is stout. If it's not, then I would drop Disley. So it just depends on what you're better at. If you're really good at wide receiver, drop MVS. If you could use some wide receiver depth, then drop Disley. But it's between those two. I do, however, like the plan to drop or to add Corum if you have Kyron Williams. I am good with that. Yeah. Drop MVS if your wide receiver depth is good. Drop Disley if it's not. And if Trevor Lawrence is ruled out, then later in the week you could probably pick up Disley and drop Ingram. But we got to cross that bridge when we get to it. We got to see what happens there. Super flex. We need two quarterbacks between Kyler, Darnold, Richardson, and Russ. Kyler and Darnold play each other. Kyler gets the Vikings. Decent matchup by the numbers. Darnold gets the Cardinals. I believe that's a decent matchup by the numbers. Let me see. I know Russ plays the Bengals. Richardson struggled, but he gets the Patriots this week. That's a good matchup. Darnold's been a top 10 quarterback 3 out of the past 4 weeks. And he's at home. I like that. Kyler has been a QB1 3 out of the past 5 weeks. Russ has been a quarterback 1 2 out of the past 5 weeks. But it's a great matchup against Cincinnati. Richardson might have the best matchup of this group, but he's only been a QB1, you know, once out of the past five, twice on the entire season. But it's a great matchup. My tentative thought here is Darnold and Russ. Darnold's been the most consistent of this group, and Russ has a great matchup against Cincinnati. Let's maybe come back to this later in the week when we have injury reports and practice updates and all that good stuff to sort out any potential intangibles here, because these are four solid options. I would tentatively say Darnold. He's been really consistent recently. And I would tentatively say Russ with the fantastic matchup against Cincinnati. Kyler and Richardson are both in play, especially if we get any developments on the injury front that impact in any way Darnold or Russ, whether it's skill guys or offensive line or they're on the injury report themselves. But we got to see how that shakes out as the week progresses. Tentatively, I say Darnold and Russ. And I would encourage, if you can, to come back on the weekend to get a more definitive answer. Again, once we have 3 days of practice reports to work with. All right. We are at the end of the chat. I think I got everybody. If anybody needs anything else here over the next couple of minutes, let me know, and I can be sure to talk shop here or give you any thoughts before I shut this down. If there is nothing else, I can be available later in the week. If anybody needs anything for Thanksgiving, you can hit me up you can post a comment, a question in the form of a comment on any videos or streams on the channel. You can also hit me in Discord. There's an evergreen invite in the second link in the description of this live stream and all the videos and streams on the channel. If you need anything for Thursday, I will have my weekend streams again, Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Sunday will be a members only chat. Everybody's welcome to join, but the members will have access to the chat, 11 a.m. Eastern, for any last minute start sit questions that you may have for week 13. If there isn't anything else, just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Appreciate everybody's support over the course of the season. Obviously, it's not over yet, but it's been a long season, and hopefully there's been more good than bad that I've been able to supply you with in the form of information and my thought process to help sort out your starting lineup or any trades or roster construction that you may have had questions about over the course of the year. Hopefully you're all in a good shape to make the playoffs if you haven't already clinched already, or if you're on the outside looking in, hopefully you're still in good shape to make the playoffs. That's what it's all about. Obviously, in just a couple of weeks, we're going to be playing for our seasons, and it's going to be do or die time. So hopefully we have as many folks, members or otherwise, in the playoffs as possible to bring home some league titles, some league championships this year. But if there's nothing else, I guess that will do it for me. Everybody have a great night. Have a spectacular holiday, however you're spending it. Hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's safe. Hopefully it's spent doing whatever it is that you like to do, or with whoever the people are that in your life that you prefer to spend your time with. However you're spending it. Hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's a fun time of year for everybody. Appreciate all your support over the weeks and the season in general. So I am thankful for you guys. To all of my members, everybody in general, appreciate you guys very much. And hopefully we can cap off this holiday week with some wins in week 13. That'll do it for me. Everybody have a great night. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the holiday. Enjoy the football. And I will see you guys this weekend for week 13 start, sit, help. Thanks, everyone.